Hello, everybody, and it's Gaz Williams here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're joining me live, wonderful. Or if you're watching this after the fact, also thank you very much. I've been a little bit irregular with my streaming, so apologies to the live audience because I do kind of just tend to I don't always have enough time to do it. So, but I do intend to do more, and especially like tonight with my illustrious guest, François Gaspard from Shakmat. Now we'll be bringing François in shortly. I just want to talk a little bit about the show and the future of things here. Really like having guests. Hope you enjoy having guests too. I'm going to make this a two-part episode tonight. This first part is going to be really getting to know François more and getting to know about Shakmat Modular more and his journey and etc. And then we will return back in a few weeks. I'll talk more about this once we've got we bring François in. So let's just bring François to the stage. Hello, here he is. Okay, so thanks very much, François, for joining me. It's a real pleasure. I'm just going to swap us around. I just think, there we go. I feel I can address you more a little bit that way. Yes, so I was just mentioning, I just said welcome to everybody and thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be the first part of a two-part stream. So the second part is going to be in a few weeks' time. And the reason for splitting this up into two parts is so this first part is just, as I say, going to be more talk and background. And then François is kindly going to send me a few Shakmat modules, which I then want to return and bring François back in so we can kind of play around with them together, because this is quite interesting to me. I think the modules that the Shakmat make are really quite different, and I'm really intrigued about it. So I don't actually have any experience with Shakmat modules at this point. So this is why I wanted to go and kind of talk to you, François, about, well, there's so many questions that I've got to ask. So let's just start with the most obvious question, okay, is Shakmat, what does it mean? And these curious modules like the Griffin's Claws or the Bishop's Miscellany, these are... I've got a hint. I've got an idea what this might be about, but maybe you could take over, please.
Okay. So first off, Shakmat, it's an old term. I think it's coming from the region where there is Iran now. We're speaking about before year 0, and this was the original name of the game of the chess. So why Shakmat? What does mean Shakmat? When you think about it, it's where Iran is right now. You have the Shah, which is the king. And Kmad apparently would mean dead. This is all ancient language. It means the king is dead.
And then you can then take the word Shakmat, checkmate.
Exactly.
That's the origin of it.
An interesting fact is in German, you will say... Skakmat, I think. No, the Dutch people say Skakmat. In Germany, they say Shakmat. So they kept almost the same word, but checkmate is completely coming from Shakmat, yes.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. So then all of the modules then, and I mean, I think everyone that you've put out all have a chess-related title. Is that right?
So basically, what was first was the name of the first module, which was called the Bishop's Miscellany, Mark 1.
That's the first
one. It was a module I made for myself. And I had a musical project back in the days, a solo project, which was called Bishop Dust. Okay. And Bishop Dust, when it was a name I chose because a friend of mine just told me, just be called Bishop Dust. I love it sound. Let's keep Bishop. And I think I'd like the Bishop character in Alien. in my head.
Oh, Bishop in Alien, yeah, excellent.
Another bishop, So he was like, yeah, I kind of like it. Okay, deal. And the project became bigger and bigger. And at a certain point, I needed to choose some visual identity. I wasn't going to choose this precise character in Alien. So there was two options left. Religion. I'm not a very religious person. So it was like, no, not religion. And chess. So yeah, it's fun because I have never seen any musical project with a visuals based on chess, and there is a lot of things to see around it. And also at the time, I had a friend. I've never been a lot. I can play chess. I enjoy playing chess. I'm not a good player, but I had a friend who was into the chess community since like decades. He was much older than me, and he took me in some places in Brussels where there are all those crazy people playing chess. All the whole days they're just playing chess, and I was very, very like amazed by all the chess world. So I was there is a lot, the imagery and the world itself, like the craziness of this world. I like it, so I choose the chess as a visual identity. Then the project ended. At the same time, I started to make modules, just prototype for myself. And when we decided we need maybe to have names if we're making a brand, I was okay. So the first one will be my module, so Bishop. And Miscellany is a small book where I think priests just wrote their prayers and their songs. And that's why, because it was a CV recorder, it's something what you write.
Oh, it's recording. Yeah.
Recording. So it was a Bishop Miscellany. It was like, okay, we like the name. What's the name of the brand? And I just discovered about the Shakmat term. And Shakmat is very far, far, far from what we say in French, which is échec et mat. So when you hear Shakmat and échec et mat, you don't feel the connection like we have in English.
Interesting.
And it was like, yeah, we like the name, which is not reflecting anything. I did not realize it was so close in Dutch. And
okay. Oh, it's great. Oh, this is fascinating. One of the things when I first started getting into modular was I was just baffled by so many of the names. Again, it's like, what do you call these things? You have to name them after something. So I was curious then about the kind of chess thing, just because I was trying to think about what similarity that there could be with operating modular synths and playing chess, and whether there is any, or if it's just a nice name, but there definitely moves. There are moves that you make, and they are strategic moves, especially performing live. I don't know if I'm just elaborating too much here.
No, I think there is some kind of a relation between modular and chess in a way, because it's something you both do for enjoying it, but it's a very technical thing.
Yeah.
Chess and modular are both technical and giving enjoyments. I won't say chess. Maybe chess is a form of art too. I'm not playing enough to state that, but it was this idea. And for the names, to complete the question earlier, when we started, we say, we have this first module. It's called the Bishop. So we have a second one, which was called the Knight. A third one was called the Rook. And we didn't realize by starting that we would release so much module. It was more like a challenge I had with a friend at that time. So it's Steve, the second one from Shakmat. Was much more like let's try to industrialize. We were soldering by hand in my old apartment, the modules, but let's try to do a series of modules, and maybe some people will be interested. And we didn't realize we were gonna release so much modules. So at a certain point, it was like, we won't do a king and a queen because it's so pretentious. A pawn, we might have a pawn. We ended up to have a pawn, which is a clock a pawn. But what could be another piece? So we found out that there is alternative chess. And in the alternative chess, you have one where you can find the wizard. We have the time wizard. And one where you can find the harlequin, harlequin's context. Okay, but then it was it. No more. No, every time we have to imagine what could be a chess piece. Like we have the Griffin's Claws, which was one of the latest model we released. A griffin could be a chess piece. Yes. Okay. So let's go for having a griffin into our chess world, imaginary chess world. So it's a way. Some people think it's more like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons inspiration, because we have, the daggers, the bard, and so on. But it's still, we need to think about what could be a chess piece.
Great.
It could be okay. Let's go. It's a good name for a module then.
It's great. No, it is great, and things like this just bring color and vibrancy into the whole community. It's great. I just think it's a very creative area, modular Eurorack especially, and I think the expanding nature of both my modular collection, but the modular world is always kind of fascinating. Like, there are trends. I'm able now to be able to see a few of the trends, but a more recent trend though is into like CV recording. Maybe it was more expensive or difficult to do, but a couple of your modules, recent ones, are very much about CV recording. But I was finding that quite interesting. You said that your first ever module you made was that a CV recorder then?
Yeah.
So
yes,
this is
one of the latest CV recorder we got now, the Bishop Smithsonian Mark II. Yes.
Yeah. So it's quite interesting because, like, CV recording then, I'm talking about two modules here, really, the Griffin's Claws and the Bishop's Miscellany Mark II. Both of those can record CV, but they're very different modules from each other. But I think the point I'm trying to say here is, as kind of modular synth has evolved from its origins as essentially subtractive synthesis, analog subtractive synthesis, and the only way you could really do that in the 90s and 2000s with new things probably in modular and then certainly into Eurorack. And then the onset of digital modules, which was met with some resistance from analog purists. I mean, now it seems quite funny thinking about it because we've come on such a lot since then, and I don't think anybody's particularly bothered about the analog digital thing so much. They've both got strengths and weaknesses. They're both perfectly valid. Now, I mention all of this because obviously a CV recorder is very much a digital affair, and I'm guessing then you're having to use analog to digital converters, and so what happens if you put audio into a CV recorder?
First thing, the Griffin's Claws, it's a recorder, but it's a fader move recorder. You cannot record external CV. For the Bishop's Miscellany,
yes,
it's a stepped CV gate recorder. So meaning it records on steps. So you can clock it, I think, at maybe 500 hertz and have like noises. I could try. I never tried it on the Mark. I tried it on the Mark I, and you had like glitchy noise, very digital, lo-fi digital noises. I never tried it with the Mark II actually. But there are some CV recorders on the market which are like classic recorder actually.
Can be audio.
Yeah, there's a more branded like audio recorder which can record CV because people are more excited into recording audios than CV. And so I guess that's the reason where they're more usually branded as audio recorder. But take the Morpha Gene from Make Noise, for example, you can record CV in it. So it's one of the many examples you have for those kind of recorders. I think the modular world, like you said, has evolved from the 90s to 2000, where it was more for me like a open structure subtractive analog synthesizer. And so it was in this niche of people which was very technique thing, and modular synthesizer weren't very well known at the time. And I think it gets more and more well known to the point where you had like more classically trained musician. I don't speak about classical music, but like people playing drums, guitars, bass, keyboard, and so on, who were interested in it. And I think, I'm part of those people who wanted to bring back some more interactivity with the instrument. Because yes, the very low abstraction analog synthesizer. You can patch the way you want. It's very exciting. But when it comes to the fact that you want to do the same things and with a more classical instrument, it becomes very complicated. And there is a lot of questions that are coming through when you start thinking of a performance with this kind of instrument. And this is why we started making modules. And this is why also my modules were my creations, because I was enjoying playing with a modular synthesizer. I wanted to play live with it. And I felt like, yeah, maybe some tools are missing to have a proper improvisation live with this.
Right. Okay, this is interesting. So I've got some questions really about you and your music and your musicianship and sort of how this all then kind of connects. Before we do that though, I just want to say a big hello to everybody in the chat room. There's been lots of greetings going on there. I'm not going to reply to those just at the moment, but just want to say a quick thing as well. We will be taking questions later, and if you can sort of just hold off with questions just until we have a kind of question sort of section, and so just please, that's just to make things kind of flow here. But lost you for a moment then. Can you say that again, please?
I haven't said anything.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I haven't said anything, guys.
Okay, but
opening the chat as well, so I can see also the.
I think your video's freezing a little bit, so we'll just hope it'll just come back online.
Okay, I'm not gonna open YouTube or something. Maybe my internet is a bit weak.
Okay.
You know what? Let's remove everything and just you. Yeah.
Okay.
You will tell me the questions then.
I'll pass. Gotcha. There we go. I understand. Okay. So let's just get back on track. So I got so much I'd like to ask you. So just to kind of give it a little bit of structure for everybody, we'll talk about your journey as a musician then, and when you first started playing, and were you working with a computer, or were you working with, as you say, more traditional instruments? Let's go back in time.
So I started when I was making music, maybe when I was 12, yeah. I think back in the days, I was one of my major influence when I was a kid was like the synthesizer compilations, like Jean-Michel Jarre, Vangelis, and Hammer, and all those guys. So I think I wanted at a certain point to learn piano and also synthesizer, but I was a kid, so I started by myself with a friend of my parents, coming at home, learning a bit of jazz, learning a bit about music theory, and so on. And then I became like 14 years old, friend in my village, starting bands and so on. There was already a lot of guitarists, a lot of drummers, no bass player. So, okay, let me pick bass. So I learned bass. I think it's the instrument I played I exercised the most. And I played in cover bands when I was 14 years old, and very quickly it evolved into like a metal punk band, whatever. Something that was huge in Belgium back in the late 90s. I'm 43, so when I was 16, it was like 1998. One of the major alternative things happening in Belgium at the time in the rock music was hardcore. Hardcore, like not hardcore techno, hardcore like similar to metal. Okay, and I went into the train. I jumped into this train of hardcore because a lot of people were playing hardcore, and I really enjoyed also the music and the scene at the beginning. So I started to play in hardcore bands, bass. I found it very frustrating because when you come with a riff as a bass player, everyone look at you like, yeah, and you play the same riff on a guitar, everyone says, yes. So that when I wanted to do my own band, I said, okay, no, I'm gonna play guitar because I need to compose for the band. So I jumped from bass to guitar, and I played several years in hardcore bands. And little by little, I realized hardcore was fun, but in terms of open-mindedness, in terms of music, it's very closed. Like it's crazy because I became I worked as a sound engineer after in a club in Brussels where there was a lot of metal and hardcore bands. And like 6-7 years after quitting all this scene, I was like, oh, cool, a metalcore band is coming to play tonight. I want to see what the metalcore scene is now. It was exactly the same that when I quit.
It was the same.
Okay, I was disappointed, but not impressed that he didn't change at all. So
I was just going to cut in there. I have a little thing about genres being kind of dead ends. As soon as something becomes a genre, it becomes limited by the thing that defines it as a genre. And for me, that's the exact opposite of what I'm interested in. So I'm always trying to avoid any trappings of genre stuff. I don't want to ever make music in a genre. It's just I've been thinking about a lot of this lately. Sorry, that's why I just wanted to cut in there.
It's completely what I learned from this, and it was crazy because at the beginning when I was into this new hardcore, we was crossing metal. It was a huge experimentation for everyone. So the beginning of the scene was really exciting, but at some point you reach the limits of what people are expecting from that music, because I was playing with a delay, sometimes with some tools on my guitar to make weird noises. I was in festival, and I remember it was at one time a guy from another band in a big festival told me, yeah, I mean, it's very cool what you're doing, but how do you call the music? I mean, 95% of the music was like double kick, fast riffs, metal, screaming, like all the codes you have in hardcore with all the same kind of lyrics and so on. And just because on a few moments there are a bit more experimentation, it's nothing similar to what they're doing. And they forget like 95% of the genre is exactly the same between what we are doing and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I got a repulsion from the genre and the code and too much code. And in the meantime, it was early 2000s. Like even in the late 90s, I already discovered some word electronic music. So I went into electronic music by, the Warp records, the early Planet Mu. So it was like very genre defying. Also, it was very open minded. Like everything was permitted in this kind of music. And I was really excited in reaction of what I experienced with hardcore. So when I quitted the hardcore scene, I was mostly doing experimental music and noise. I went also into a bit into breakcore, which was very open-minded back in the days. No, also it's more like code. I think in breakcore, and that was breakcore. I think in the early 2000s. And I also wanted to get rid of bands. Was my first reaction, because band is compromise. Bands that don't want to rehearse every day. Bands, this one guy want to make like trash music. This one is more punk. I want to do metalcore. So it's always a compromise. And also you have to deal with people. You have to deal with. You have to find those people at the same time. Yeah. So when I discovered I can just do music by my own, I was like, whoa, this is exciting. So I can do music every day. I can rehearse with my own project every day if I want. And that's how I jumped like mid-2000 into making music by my own. And I kept on playing in band a bit later, but more experimental bands and so on. And I ended up playing in a project because I did engineering studies. That was my hardcore period / the end of the hardcore period. And then I studied sound engineering. That was when I was more into experimentation in sound. And just after that, I was teaching, and I was also in a band which was really genre-defying, which was called Deep Attacks. It was a band with mask and weird crossbreed of jungle, hip-hop, beginning of dubstep, with strange voices on it. We were all singing with our two dancers, me as a DJ and the lead singer. As well, also very audiovisual, which was pretty rare at the time. And so I quit my job because of that band, which was touring quite a lot. And then the band stopped from one day to another. And I paid for my first modular synth. My first Eurorack, sorry, because I had a modular synth before. We can get back to this after if you want. And I jumped on my first modular synth. And from one day to another, I was like, okay, this year we're making an album, then we tour a lot. That was the program. And finally nothing. And that's how I started, okay, I'm going to practice on my modular synth. Oh, I have ideas. Oh, but I have this. engineer's background I can deal with to make maybe modules for me. And that's how I started finally to create modules. And after that, I choose. I realized that it was fun to have setup of electronic instrument, and I really wanted at a certain point. When I was a guitar player, I could play with almost anyone. I mean, in the genre when I can play with, I can go to jam with people, and something I really always enjoyed. And I wanted to find this back with a electronic setup, and that's why I choose like a modular synth, a mixer, and a couple of effects. And I said, okay, it will take time, but I want to be able to practice and to compose a lot of different stuff with this precise setup. And this is how I exercise a lot to just play by my own or with people with this kind of setup, like we did in the jam you did in Bristol.
Yes, I'll talk about that in a moment because I was hoping. Well, no, we can go there now because François and myself, we met properly a few weeks back during Machina Bristronica, and specifically the event that Steve Davis and myself put on, a Rack Records event in the Cube Cinema, where now I think I've mentioned about this a little bit, but there will be a full video of this. Oh yes. Yes, it's in production at the moment. So so stay tuned. That's it was a wonderful night. So just to recap that little briefly, it was following in the Rack Records tradition of like bringing people together and then drawing at random who gets to play with who. And the twist with this particular show was we got in the most different manufacturers to actually play with each other, and they're wonderful, beautiful. And so it was Ben from Elevator who said to me, "Oh, François from Shakmat would be amazing to be part of the show." And I was like, okay, great. So, that was it was Ben's kind of enthusiasm there that was, that sort of got me to reach out to you then to invite you to take part. And so during that show then, we had on stage, we had 8 different performers, and the 8 were all drawn at random. I'm sure many of you will know about either this show or this method because we've done it before. And you were drawn with Roland and Enrica of Making Sound Machines, but also with Oz from Expert Sleepers.
Yeah.
And Oz was probably one of the more unique performers on that night because he was playing saxophone through essentially a pedal board, but on the pedal board was also a Disting NT. So he was doing, which was mostly controlling kind of looping aspects of it. And but that was really interesting when you two were playing. Well, how was that for you?
It was feeling great. Yeah, playing with him was very, very great. Playing with Making Sound Machine was great too. But yeah, playing with him was very special. And the good thing with him is I had time to anticipate before, like to just hear, was just concentrated a quarter before me because he was already playing for a quarter before I played with him for a quarter. And I just had time to listen to what I was really intrigued by. What is he gonna do with his saxophone? Will it be like riffs? Will it be like drones? Will it be like free jazz type of stuff? So I was, okay, I need to very catch what's the deal here. And also I cheat a bit because just before the second part, I went to him and I said, okay, I need one information.
Yeah.
What will be the note? What will be? It said, I already planned that it will be B flat when you will be on stage. I said, okay, B flat, cool. So when I went on stage, I knew the
B flat
with headphones, and I was okay. Within kind of big harmonic drone. I already imagined during this first quarter, we will be playing with someone else that we could maybe I know where to go with him. Yeah.
So were you using entirely Shakmat modules on your rig?
Yes, plus a mixer and a couple of Stoombox, like I think I had a space from Eventide and Timeline from Strymon.
Okay. So this is one of the things I thought was particularly interesting on that night. You know, that you really, not only were you getting a flavour of the different musicians, but you're also hearing the contributions that the different musicians had made through their companies or through their products, which was just another, it was just an extra element that made it quite special, I think. Richard Nicol from Pittsburgh Modular, a great friend, he played first along with Paul Whittington from PWM, and that was quite fun because Paul isn't really a modular musician at all. So Paul is more of he's more of a traditional pianist and keyboard player. And when I invited Paul to take part, and he was like, "Oh, he loves to play, so he's always up for a jam." But he was like, "Oh, how is this going to work?" And I thought it was really great. He got to kind of do a bit of like synth shredding, which, you know, just as another flavor in the night. But again, you know, playing on his own creations, which sort of, you know, fantastic. And Finley Shakespeare playing his crick, and, you know, just that sort of thing was just it just made it really, really special. So yeah, so that will be coming out on this channel soon, as soon as I can get it all finished. Got it really nicely filmed, so yeah, something to look forward to there. But okay, let's just so now we're into this modular era with your musicianship. Other than just being able to do it on your own, what were some of the kind of like revelations, if you will, musical revelations? What could you do within, say, modular synth that you couldn't achieve prior to that?
Mainly two things, a lot, I would say, but mainly two things. The first one is the ability to create your own architecture to make sound or to sequence sound, which leads to very unique results. And it's very unique in the sense of, with this combination, I mean, with a certain machine, people can do unique stuff. But with modular synth, you need to have those precise modules in the way you patch them in a certain way. And there, we're only speaking about sweet spots. So it's very unlikely that someone else will do exactly the same thing as you, because they need to have the same modules. Same patch.
Yeah.
Then you only come to the sweet spot thing, which is where you already have a lot of difference. I mean, take your MS-20, you put it in the end of one musician and another musician. Maybe MS-20 is not the right choice. SH-101, and you can already have a lot of different sounds out of it from a very simple subtractive architecture. And now you take it to modular synth, where you can have a the probability to have the same setup and the same thing is very, very, very low. So this is very unique for everyone. So this is the first thing that I really enjoyed with the modular thing that I discovered. Like, okay, it's and what appeals me to go into there. It's like you can really create your own way of thinking to make sounds and to sequence sounds and to compose. And the second thing I really enjoyed with modular, and I think when thinking about what we're making with Shakmat right now, is also the fact that you can customize an instrument as much as you want. So you can have it's not only a question of, I want this filter with this VCO and so on. No, I mean about, this is sometimes important to have Z decay next to Z cutoff, and maybe you want the delay just next to it, just the way you can have a very precise interaction, like ergonomy of the instrument. And you can have a very personalized instrument. So not only the patch, but also the instrument you're gonna play on. And I really like, for example, one of the system I played live the more with the project I'm playing the most with right now. It wasn't the same system as I brought in Bristol. It's the fact that it's patched the same way since 4 years now. I mean, it's patched the same way. I haven't remove a single cable from 4 or 5 years of this system.
Wow.
And this is where it
Wow.
becomes interesting because you have like a muscle memory of your instrument.
Yeah.
Decay on track 1 is there. I want to know the filters there, it's there. You know exactly where to pick things. Think about, I had this revelation. I was playing in a band where I was playing a bit of keyboard, and I had this SH101 in the band. And I knew very well the SH101. It was an old instrument, no MIDI, and because I needed MIDI to get in sync with some part of the band sometimes. And I just jumped, because I was processing a lot, the SH101. I was like, okay, actually, any subtractive analog synthesizers could do the job. Let's take a cheap one because we go on the road with it. And let's take one which is reliable and has MIDI. I took an Arturia Mini Brute. So it's not a huge difference in terms of syncing between the two instruments. And I said, yeah, I mean, the transition will be in 2-3 hours. I will be able to play exactly the same way. And I learned the hard way that no, not at all. Because you know when your decay of the envelope is on this position on your knob,
Right.
the is there with a resonance there. When you have an instrument since a long time, you know exactly how it will sound without hearing it.
Yeah.
It took 2 years before I was like, okay, no, I'm able to play the same show, the same track with this different instrument. It's not about the sound in that case. It was just about the ergonomy of the instrument. So I think that's why it's important. And then maybe the trap sometimes with modular synthesizers. I mean, the first time you do a patch, you have this very new approach and it's very exciting. But when you try to learn it, a certain patch, it takes time. And usually you remove patches before trying to learn this exact same patch. So that's why for a certain time I want this to be an instrument, in the sense like you change from one guitar to another, maybe the size of the frets, the distance. You say the frets, right?
Oh yeah, frets. Yeah.
Maybe a bit different. This has like 42 tones. This one has for 24, and it changed everything. Think about an instrument like a modular.
I mean, just to jump on that there, like I've got a lot of bass guitars. I've got about 14 bass guitars. And when I play them, I mean, this is a justification for having 14, but when I play them, I am like a different musician, depending which one I play. Like they, just the way that they feel, just how flat the neck is at where it joins the body. Sometimes the bridge is set further back. Sometimes the bridge is set further forward, like on my Waghorn bass, where the bridge is set all here, so the neck feels right out there. Yeah. So that one, for instance, when the neck is out there, you're kind of having to reach for things a little bit, and it's a rocking kind of bass, because you end up sort of like playing it like, oh, and it's funny, like you just come up with a different music. Sorry, I am going into bassland there, but
no, it's totally what because my main comparison for that were keyboards, but also guitar. So I quit playing guitar. Maybe I quit. I didn't play that much guitar. Maybe after 30 or something. But bass, I quit playing bass at 25. I had 3 basses, and I hear you. It's totally this. Like the instrument sometimes shapes the way you're doing music with it, but you also have to learn this instrument by heart. And would you like to do a show? Like one day you receive a bass guitar, would you like to do the show that day? No, you need to learn. I mean, personally, I wouldn't like to do that. I need to learn a bit what instrument.
I mean, I've had to do that, and it's weird. It's just this is funny. It's funny. You just, and like you were mentioning there about, like, say, the decay on the Arturia compared to the 101, I feel as well with like pickups, depending where the pickups are, there's a whole bunch of things that which will determine the attack and decay of the instrument, and when you know an instrument really well, you just know where to find those points. And And I've played basses that should be really, really nice, but I've just really not enjoyed them at all. They are nice basses, but I've just not enjoyed the experience because I just can't find I can't get the pocket right. I just can't find the place, and but this is the joy of of having different things, I suppose. But let's just now talk about something I'm really interested in, I think, now, because I've been looking at these latest Shakmat modules, which is, as mentioned earlier, is the Griffin's Claws and the Bishop's Miscellany Mark II. Now, I know some of the viewers are not modular heads at all, and but and some are half and half. But both of those modules are completely modular related. And what I mean by that is they're not like a synth voice in itself. They're not like your typical components of a synth. They're not LFOs, although you kind of can in a way, but they're really all about manipulating CV in interesting ways. Now, like when I mentioned earlier, and I was saying about CV recorder, I was kind of meaning like they can like the Griffin's Claw can output a voltage, and you can attenuate the strength of that voltage, so you can then record the fader moves. So, like being like a human LFO, if you will, you can synchronize those. You can make them, and they're quite long. What you can do, about 81 seconds, I think, is it per channel? So you can really perform on these faders and record all of the moves. I'm assuming you'd record it one at a time. Can you record multiple at a time?
Yeah, you can record 4 at a time. Yeah,
4 at a time. Right. Okay. So, and there's a reasonable amount of fader travel as well. So immediately brought to mind. The play fader.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a crossing.
I saw it because it was released just when we were at the end of the development of the module. So it was like, oh,
yeah.
It's totally it's kind of different from what, but yeah.
I can just about see it here. Is the Isla S2400 sampler, which has got a load of faders, and you can enter notes, hit the trigger, change the fader, and then the fader is actually picking MIDI notes, and then so you can play riffs and stuff. And that was kind of the first time I'd started kind of playing melodies, but using a fader. Now, the Griffin's Claws, you can do that too, can't you? If you then have a pitch quantizer downstream of that to kind of rein it in, if you want to, into some sort of scale, and actually that's where the Bishop's Miscellany could come into play then, because that can pitch quantize. Now the Bishop's Miscellany is an incredible module. I've never seen anything remotely like it now. So this is something that we're going to return back to with some real world performance with it. So I won't dwell too much on it just for this episode. Again, just if you missed it at the top of the show, this is going to be François is going to come back on the show in a few weeks' time, hopefully, if you're okay about that.
It's always a pleasure to discuss with you. So yeah, for sure. I'll be in.
But what I thought would be quite interesting then is that this is a sort of like a before, and then the part 2 will be a sort of after. And what I mean by that is, but before my Shakmat experience, and then after, and I'll be able to then I'll show François, I'll just show you what I've managed to kind of get to so far. But I'd be really interested then to pick your brains, because I'm going to know about it more, but I'm going to want to know, ideas of what you can do, because especially with so like I mentioned, in the Griffin's Claws then is like this way of being able to record fader movements. Now also, if you've got an incoming signal into that, be it audio or CV. You could use it as like a little automated mixer for audio, which in itself is super cool. And again, with that either clocked or not clocked, or in quantized to sort of bar lengths, so time divisions. You can pick, and I was pleased to see that you can do 9. There's some good different time signatures there. It was like 9/4. There's some nice proggy time signatures.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Yeah, amazing. So, which I think one of the things that really does my head in is when things are just locked to bars of 4, because so much stuff still is. But I mean, to explore different time signatures is, a really important part of music. Anyway, I digress. So that Griffin's clause then is, I can imagine that. I can imagine how that could be used in lots of different ways. What I'm now moving over to the Bishop's Miscellany Mark II. This one is a recorder. You can record incoming CV. So if you had like an LFO, you could kind of record that LFO, but then you can then process that CV and you can apply interesting processes to it. You can put you could pitch quantize it, and you can put slides and ratchets and all kinds of like cool little sequencer tricks in.
This is what we call the process in the module, like slide, ratchet. Also usual new school stuff from sequencers, slide, ratchet. We also have a vibrato, gate lengths and stuff like that. Yeah.
But you can also, though, so this, I was just wondering about this now. I was thinking about how I could integrate that into the workflow like I'm using an Oxy One as like the kind of like brain of my system. So obviously that's a very powerful sequencer. And you could like think, well, why would you need another sequencer? Well, that's what's really interesting about this particular module. It's sort of like a sequencer. It's not really. It is a sequencer, but it's also kind of can record a sequence. So if I played a melody in that was coming from the Oxy, and the Oxy's doing its thing, then the Bishop's Miscellany can take that. And it can pass it straight through.
Yeah.
But then you can start to sort of perform on top of that sequence.
Yeah.
Now that is really cool. So you got that. So like, the Oxy's just kind of doing its thing, but then you can be kind of like, well, talk me through like that maybe that scenario where we.
It's a scenario we thought about. So first up, when we made the Mark I, we wanted to have something to record live, a keyboard, a controller. So I really loved playing the Bishop's Mark I with ADAC. ADAC, the Portuguese company, did at the time Nunchuk. So it was a Wii Nunchuk controller with a module, and you have 2 CV and 2 gates. Oh, I have 2 CV and 2 gates on my Miscellany. It becomes my best companion for the Miscellany. Just with this small joystick on your thumb and 2 buttons. 2 CV, 2 gates. It was very fun to play with. And then we realized it was also cool to play with pressure point, with different capacitive sensors, with a keyboard, anything. Because you have to imagine that when I did the first version of the Miscellany, it was 2012. And the quantity of available module to improvise and have quick live performing, it was pretty rare actually to create sequence on the fly. We're still a lot into these 16-step sequencers. I mean the René from Make Noise just came out, but it was one of the only exceptions back in the days, to my memory.
Okay.
With the second Miscellany, wanted the fact also to be able to record. So we have a quantizing algorithm that even if you play by keyboard, it will try to understand why you wanted to put each note and so on. So you can record an external sequencer, but you can also record like a regular way of expressing yourself. Like we have also a customer discussion with him right now. He has an idea I wanted because I'm more comfortable to play guitars than a keyboard. And at a certain point, I was like, "Yeah, thank you, Mr. Express Slipper." We back to him again because he did awesome algorithm into the distinct, which converts sounds into CV and gate.
Yes.
If you can play guitar, have CV gate from your guitar, and then have something that can record what you're playing with your guitar. It was also one of the way we wanted the module to be able to record thing. So first off, so you can record thing. But if you have an external sequencer, you can also pass through the information through the Bishop's miscellany, but you can apply process on it. Not only like up to a process, like a slide. Okay, we have a slide passing through the module, but you can also record on the fly sequence for the slide. So you can put a slide sequence on what's coming through. And then you get another block in the module, which are called the regen, for regeneration. So actually the regen, there are two parts, the generative algorithms and the regenerative algorithms, but you can pass through sequences through the regen part of the Bishop miscellany. And then, for example, having a sequence, a recording sequence of the background of 16 steps, and then you can lock the last 16 steps of the buffer, so it would just play, not listen to the input anymore, but just play this part, and then being able to slice and choose which slice you want to use. So you can really mix up with an external sequence coming on. So we say it's kind of a CV gate multi-effect also. It's another way to model.
Really cool. So it's kind of like, you might expect that kind of workflow with like audio and MPC type things, chopping audio and like real-time looping, but doing that with CV and then being able to, and then it's like you can just bypass it at any point to go back to whatever else is going through. So like it is like effects, as though it's like an effects pedal that you can switch on and then switch it on, and then it, like as you say, you loop in the last 16 beats of it or whatever, or this is really very, very interesting. It got me thinking as well, because it's also got a playlist function, which is pretty unique as well, certainly in this kind of format. What are we talking, 12 HP? 1480p. So still relatively small. Now, is this your first module to use a display?
Yes, actually not the first we developed, because we're starting the development of another module which is called the Ballista Blast. It's a full scene voice.
Yes. Now sorry, carry on.
With just much more screen, but we started the development of the Bishop before. Sorry. Yes. So yes, it's the first module to be released with the screen. Yes.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Ballista Blast in a moment, because you have actually shown that at did you have it at Bristronica, or did you have it at Super Booth? You're showing it in this isn't out yet, is it? This is the big okay, well let's come back to that, because I wanted to ask you about like future-y things, so that will fit into there. So I was just sort of I was just kind of thinking about this, I was like looking at like the Bishop's miscellany, and I was, as all of us do, trying to think about how that could like fit into my workflow. So I was just mentioning about the playlists, this kind of idea then that you can save all the settings and then save them again, and then create like a playlist, and then you can kind of move through that playlist of they could be transformations or actually sequences themselves, and I think can you import sequences, or could you what did I think, because this goes onto an SD so you can save all of these onto an SD card, so you could you can have a massive library, because you can load off the SD card on the unit then, so you can actually have loads and loads of stuff on there. That's kind of curious. So just mentioning about the playlist, and it's quite interesting to use that, like the terms playlist, and when you're in the playlist mode, you've got like a kind of you can advance through that list, and almost like Ableton Live, like a kind of
actually it's like a tracker.
The
main inspiration for the playlist was a tracker.
Right. So makes sense.
In a more general context, in the context of we want to make instruments with a kind of versatility, because it's something I think with modular synthesizer, it's been kind of a quest coming from like using modular synthesizers and more than 15 years, the versatility of a patch for me was kind of a quest back in the days. And having every part of your patch being versatile, I think it's very important to be able to achieve different stuff during a live, but also to adapt to different situation, because you're playing with that project, or maybe you're gonna play in a jam, for example, in Bristol. I think it's important to have with a few clicks or moves, being able to change to one function to another. And what we try to do with the Bishop miscellany is to have something that can read sequences in a certain order. So think about people making techno. Usually when you're making techno, all the tracks are like a bit cross-faded in between. So sometimes this first track needs to advance, but the other track is still on the latest riff of the previous track. So at a certain point, the other track needs to advance. And so you're always advancing a bit this way, like a tracker. Also, maybe because you have a quantizer, you have a root note and so on, maybe you would like also to have something with structure. So we also allow to have like a more classic tracker behavior, which is like going through all the pattern, forming an island and just coming back to the first pattern, for example. We wanted the module to be able to do this, to record live, but also to do generative sequencing as well. So we also wanted to have those fixed sequences that you recorded maybe months ago and you want to play them back live. At a certain point, you want to mangle them. Because I think it's one of the problem, not one of the problem, one common thing in electronic music, mainly in beat music and techno, is like you're gonna have one riff, one sequence. And to create variation, what do? You like play with a sound, you play with a cutoff, you play with a decay, you play maybe with an effect amount or something, but you don't really play with the sequence itself. And so we wanted to try to do also a module that allows to take any sequence that you ever had played one day and stored into the module and be able to play with it, to remangle it. Back to the original sequence whenever you want. And this is one of the main interesting question we had. Like, it's so frustrating finally when you do a live set that you have this precise riff and that's it. The sequence doesn't move. All you can do is like change the sound around it. You can already do a lot, but we found like maybe we try to open a door by saying no, remangle the sequence and the sound as well. But you can also remangle the sequence.
Yeah, no, it's really, really interesting. I mean, as I say, I'm quite in my particular, again, I'm just reflecting on it from a personal point of view. Like I'm really enjoying the Oxy One sequencer because of its functionality. But what I'm kind of missing with the Oxy is, there's plenty of hands-on on the Oxy. It's just that prior to using the Oxy, I was kind of generating melodies mostly using Yuhi Civilization and just sort of using it as a pitch quantizer. I had my gates coming from somewhere else, and I had my pitches, that kind of separated way of things where your gates are coming from one place and you're controlling the pitch of the CV from another place. And I was getting some great results that way. But anytime I wanted to do anything that was a little bit more kind of like, I don't know, into some sort of making a little bit more ordered or a little bit more sense, it was really hard work. So when the Oxy came along, I was like, oh yeah, great. I can do all this kind of cool stuff. But then I started missing just this way of just being able to really, as you say, mangle it or it feels a bit more modular, like when modular, what do I mean? Well, a unique experience within the kind of modular world is this like really getting your hands in and twisting things and the same for like manipulating music, can you control how much range is in a sequence? Can you kind of flatline it into just like giving it no range, so it'll just play a single note, and then you can start opening the range? Is there something? Yeah.
I spoke about the regenerative algorithms. So mainly I said, you have a buffer with a certain number of steps, but you have also regenerative algorithms that plays on, let's say, on the y-axis, so on the notes, you can have a offset the melody
Yeah.
pre-quantization, but also change the range of the melody pre-quantization, and you can
Right.
just narrow it to one note if you want. And
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. So this is the thing I was trying to sort of say there, that, like, you know, when I was using the Oxy, I was kind of going, oh, this is really good fun. But then, oh no, this is how I used to do stuff before I got into modular. I want that modular-y workflow, that thing, manipulating, squeezing, adjusting. And yes, so the fact then, I think this is what makes it kind of quite exciting to me, is that that you could combine, you know, if you've got a sequencer that you really like I have in my case, you can this can then work with any sequencer and give your sequencer just immense amounts of new possibilities. I think it's fantastic in that way, you know. You know, a sequencer effects pedal, it's just like a bonkers concept.
It's like, so next to we are in my office, which is like pretty newly set up. That's why it's a little bit empty, you know. But next there's a friend of mine who was having a studio, and he's like very into modular. And so if you watch this show, hello Simon, he told me like, yeah, actually, like, put it just after his sequence in listen mode, like fully transparent, passing through the signal from the sequencer. It is like you said, like a bit like when you are a guitar player and you have this delay pedal, you very often don't press you don't very put it on very often, you know. But it's like in case of, because that's this time where I got something, maybe I want to record it inside, store it for later, or maybe my sequencer doesn't have any slide or vibrato or ratchet or something. Maybe the bishop can be the addition to this. Maybe I just want to be able also to remangle the sequence. Maybe there's something with my sequencer I won't be able to do. The bishop is there just after to help that.
So what else I was thinking? So having then, you know, being able to record anything, it's also made me think, with the playlist idea, could you have, say, for instance, a load of like the top lines from Bach's cello concerto, and just have I guess you can program that in on anything, and then use maybe like get a MIDI file, then a MIDI to CV converter, and then like record that the kind of Bach kind of line. If you just did that, I'm just having an idea, you know, because all that stuff is out of copyright, and getting all these like really nice Bach top lines, and make a playlist, say, of maybe 8 Bach pieces, and then just like use that as a starting point, and just kind of work through this playlist whilst mangling and shaping it. It's just some kind of...
Just the limitation is like a pattern. The playlist is 64 steps long.
Right, but each pattern can be, how long can each sort of recording be?
64 steps.
Oh, sorry, 64 steps. So yeah. Okay.
So you can put a full song into a pattern. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Okay, so like
decompose it in several patterns that goes then into the playlist to create a substructure.
Yeah, and then like, because of the tracker nature of it, then you can CV move through that as well, through that list.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have 4 assignable CV inputs, which can be assigned on playlists, any process, any region. Also, you can externalize recording or stuff like that. Because, like I said, I would like to play guitar into this thing, and then have the CV gate going to this thing. We need a pedal, just by a foot switch, just to say record it. And you can use a assignable CV for that.
Cool. So I'm actually imagining then you could probably use the Griffin's Claw, then like taking the outputs of the Griffin's Claw, put the 4 outputs of the Griffin's Claw into the 4 inputs of the bishops, and then oh, hang on. So if you're recording all those manipulations, boom. Okay. All right.
One thing, because you mentioned earlier, like the Griffiths, we made the Griffiths close while we were doing the Bishop's Miscellany. And the Bishop's Miscellany had these things of having more like a regular way of thinking patterns in electronic music, so short patterns. I mean, 64 step is not that short, but still quite short regarding the duration of a whole song, of a whole like mezzo structure inside a song, like a verse or a chorus. And we wanted to have a tool that allows to mangle. What if you use a Bishop's Miscellany and you use the assignable CV to mangle the sequence inside with a tool that allows much longer duration of recordings, such as the Griffin's Close? What if you can say sometimes I want to add a bit of randomness after 16 bars at the end of this bar, just to create variations? So we thought about also the Griffin's Close to be something that could be able to sequence the Bishop's Miscellany, and that's why we wanted on our to-do list. That's why we wanted very long recording on the Griffin's Close.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Really interesting. Yeah, because that then is giving you lots and lots of hands-on control, lots of recordability, but also super fast. And so again, I'm thinking from my, just thinking the way I do stuff myself, like if you're performing live, then you could do a lot of your performance on just those two devices. Then a lot of the performance of, so if you've got something like in my case, if I had like the Oxy with a lot of stochastic kind of stuff going on, so it's like generating a lot. Although I'm saying that you can do generative stuff directly from the Bishops as well, can't you? You can do stuff. You don't need to put something into it.
No, because you can record external sources, but you have also, we spoke about the regenerative algorithm, but there are also generative algorithms. And so there are randomness, arpeggiation, knob recording. Leonard, with one of our programmer, came out also with a different regenerative and regenerative algorithm. He did a lot of research on people who try to give theory to the way jazz musicians are improvising, for example. And you can see patterns in it, and with two parameters, you can reproduce a way. Sometimes you're improvising with your guitar in a rock band or in a jazz band, for example, which leads to, when you loop those patterns, which give like very musical results. So yeah, you can create the module by itself can create sequences. Yes.
Great. I'm just going to just turn to the chat room just quickly. I mean, thank you, Wagyu. Yes, so just it's all that business. I never remember to do that. And please subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Click that stinking bell if you want to see when I'm streaming. Anyway, blah blah blah. But also, this is what caught my eye. Sorry, chatties. I know there's a chat been going on. I've been giving Francois my full attention, but Remy, nice to see you, mate. But Remy's just said, just got the Bishop. It absolutely blew your socks off. Perfect for improv. Okay.
Thank you, Remy.
Great to hear that. So you mentioned there about the programmer. I just thought it might be quite nice actually to learn a little bit about the team then, because Shakmat was something that initially you started, and then was it Steve was the first person you then joined forces with?
Yeah, so Steve and I have been in a art collective label in Brussels 4 years, and the collective ended almost at the time the collective was ending. He was a graphic guy. I was kind of a art director of the collective and label with other people. And when the collective just ended, I was creating my modules, and because I had some positive reaction from other people who asked me, I would like the same module as you, but I need to understand how I can make series of that. So I mean, the first modules that were really like prototype-ish, like very making a PCB panel wasn't something at the time. So it was like a plate of plastic I just drilled and put some tapes on it and noted with a marker. So it wasn't very ready for sale. But so we wanted to do something more ready for sale, like more appealing for people, like that you can actually say, okay, it's an actual module. And Steve proposed me, because what's interesting with Steve is in Shakmat since day 1.5, like since day one, let's say that. And when Steve, his background is not a musician, he's not an electronician. He's first a graphic designer. He's DJing. He got a love also with electronic instruments. He find it's very beautiful. He like also the way on some device you can create complex UI in a very simple way sometimes. And so he got all those approach, but he's not musician, not electronician. But he has a lot of perspective to give to Shakmat because of its like thinking a bit out of the box. Sometimes being able to give fresh ideas which came from totally different realms and from the modular synthesizers.
Yeah.
Because almost all the other person we are reading to modular synthesizers. So all kind of language to create modules, they are coming from the modular synthesizer. And then there's Steve, who is like a bit out of this world, who sometimes come with like kind of it was like throwing new words we don't know into the modular realm because he saw that on this old school Pioneer amplifier or ideas like that. Sometimes he's taking his inspiration from somewhere else, which is a very interesting point of view. And so Steve from day one was there, got really quickly into practical electronics because he needed to help me on producing modules. So he learned quickly to solder, organize a workshop. He's the guy who is making the panels, all the aesthetic, all the
aesthetics of the panels.
Yeah, it's okay. Him. Yeah, I mean, it was normal. It was the job. So it's since the first module, it's a person who is doing the panels, the manuals. Is in charge of all the packaging of the building guide. If you're doing DIY, all the website, everything visual basically is coming from Steve. So we created this together. Then came, because it was 10 years ago, that's the whole story. Pretty at the same time came two other persons, which are Leonard and Guillaume. Guillaume, we could say, the third person in the core of Shakmat. He's responsible of the analog designs and the PCB and part of the production. Steve as well is also charge of running the production. Like we have people working at production, but he's the head of production. Guillaume is like the head of the industrial production with factories. Leonard joined us for an internship like not a long time before COVID. He's an engineer, he's an awesome musician. His album is about to be released like right now. It's called Leonard Steyart, Steyart. I really advise you to give an ear.
Can you send me a link for it and I'll put it in the notes?
I will. You know what? I'm gonna note. I should send you something for a note.
Yeah.
And then we have we grew up with also people helping at all the production part and also all the logistic part. So right now there is Nico and Pierrick who are into the production room.
The team is grown then.
The team is big, but I will come back to it just after because there is a kind of but.
Okay.
Ale is making, so she's a good friend who is in charge of all the shipments, some administrative stuff, invoicing and so on. And the last person we could, there is Brice who is in charge of the communication. So if you reach us through the Instagram, you will go get Brice. And since this summer, we got Tanguy, which is a word named to pronounce, I think, in English, who is a programmer as well. But this is where the but comes, and I'm pretty convinced it's a good way to do it. We are almost all part-time. I'm not part-time because there are so many things I need to deal with. Steve and Guillaume are mostly full-time also, and actually also the persons, they have their own musical activity on the side. Or for example, Ale is painter, drawer. She's also giving courses in a university in Belgium for fine arts. And so we like also the fact that everyone comes with we're not like in a bubble every day. So all of us with our inspiration is us. It's not something we want. We love that the fact that Leonard is making a music which is completely different to the way I'm making music. For example, I'm not into harmonic stuff at all. Leonard is very into harmonic stuff. Brice is like running a like hypnotic techno / bass music label, and I like the fact that everyone got his own realm around Shakmat and also his own way to see at music, and we're not like just us and close to the rest of the world.
Okay.
It's something that I think kind of freshness to there's a different point of view.
Yeah, that's nice. So I mentioned then we wanted to talk a little bit about the future and what the future holds. Now you've been showing a couple of new modules. So in your range so far, you've got a kick module, the battering ram, and the hi-hat module, which is sort of the Archer's rig.
Yeah.
Yep. And you've got now a forthcoming snare module.
Yeah, the Lancer Slash. So just one small note about the Lancers, because we hear because people get into the kick and hi-hats, they want the snare as quick as possible. We had to delay a bit the snare for like the beginning of 2026, early around March, because actually we have someone in the team who is like pretty sick and needed to take a time off complete from everything, and he was in charge of making part of the snare. So I have to. It's me, who is back to the development of the module. So the module is coming, but sorry for the delay and thank you for the demonstrations.
I can imagine people who've got the battering ram and the Archer's rig are probably just going, "No, I need it." So, I mean, okay, let's just before we talk about the Ballista Blast, these drum modules, then, how do you go about making a drum module, and how do you what do you do to them, like, for instance, with a hi-hat module, what do you, in order to make something different, something new, like a hi-hat seems like a very kind of limited thing. What did you do to innovate there?
It's coming from the fact it's very something the hi-hat, because in modular, in the analog drum machines in general, and even in the digital drum machine, hi-hats are always produced the same way. And in modular, you learn then to do an hi-hat, you need a weird noise source, a VCA with a snappy envelope, and a high-pass filter, and maybe a distortion, 2 different envelopes for close and open, or modulating this envelope. And I was like, it's crazy how we just have in modular basically 808, 909, which is a sample, and maybe 606, maybe Lindrum, but that's it. There is no, I mean, there are a lot of solutions to take a lot of modules and make this proper patch for hi-hat. Then you have all those pretty well-known sounds of hi-hats, but no one integrated everything together to make something that is close to the 909, something that is close from the like 808 techniques, and all the other word technique we use usually in modular to create hi-hats. Because perspective also, we wanted to add stuff that you couldn't have with a regular patch, like presets, like maybe assignable velocity.
Is it a digital sound generating?
Okay, so it's very like we describe it in the way you could patch it. It's a noise source, which because we wanted it versatile, we did it digitally. So let's think about sum of square, like an 808, noise, different type of noise, kind of source that emulates the 909 and the all Lindrum like samples, but also weird lo-fi FM glitches patches, which gives like all the source to have proper stuff to do hi-hat. And then we have all an analog chain after that with VCA, filters, distortion, modulated by envelope. And so you have all the digital realm, which allows to do the close, open hi-hats. And on top of this, as you have a CPU, here we go. You can do a lot of different stuff. Randomizer on every parameters, velocity,
Nice.
preset, and select bus. Select bus, which is kind of important for us because something we want to use on every module.
Yes, because your modules are using the fat cable, aren't they? So that's so you can do the the 16 pin. Do all of the modules use the 16 pin, or you need the 16 pin cable for the select bus that uses those extra cables.
And we decided for the hi-hat module, and to answer the question, how did you came to do drum modules? We decided for hi-hat alone. For the kick, we were like, yes, we will find solutions. And there is this awesome guy, which is called Mark. Hey, Mark, if you're watching the show. Mark Nostromo, Mark Resibois is his real name. He's a developer at Ableton Live, and he already came several times in the HQ because it's like living 500 meters from here. And he asked me maybe for 1 or 2 designs for him. And one day he came like, I did on VCV rack a kick drum, and a friend of mine ported it on a Daisy on a custom module. Try my kick drum, please. Okay, so I went to my studio. I tried the kick drum. I was like, whoa, this is very impressive, Mark. Sounds really like badass. Okay, so I guess if you gave us the module, you want maybe us to help you to start your company to release the module, your kick drum. No, actually, I would like you to release the kick drum. And we were like already thinking about making an hi-hat. So you're bringing a kick drum, we have an hi-hat. I think it's time for us to create a line. And so it's 2 very different stories, but they were reaching the same objective, like make a drum rig with Shakmat stuff. And then we had to do a snare. That's why we are working on a snare now. And
makes sense. And I guess you learn a lot from what your previous modules then. So when you come to do the snare, you've got all this experience then to draw upon. So I can imagine that, as things go, this is going to be quite interesting, won't it, to hear that, to hear all 3 together, and let's see when its own unique character kind of comes out. But so let's talk then about, and then we'll look to end the stream shortly after this then. So the final thing we'll talk about then is the Ballista Brat Blast. Now, this is the biggest module to date from Shakmat. It's a complete synth voice.
Yes. Yeah. So it's an hybrid also. As the Archer's rig is an hybrid between digital and analog. So what if you put something like, let's say, a plate, but it's not really a plate because it's our own homebrew algorithm in a digital VCO, and you add after several kind of filters, not like fact that it's a multi-mode filter, but you have different flavor of filters, VCA, envelopes, and distortions in a 12 HP module. And this was the idea of the band. Basically, we said our intention right now is to create a kind of techno club music system with everything Shakmat is bringing since the last years, meaning the velocity, the select bus, and the fact that we want dedicated instruments. So we have different lines. If you check on our website, we have no 2 way to categorize our modules, like the traditional functions. This is a filter, this is a sound source. But I guess we have different sound sources. We have an analog VCO, which is called the Banshee Reach, and we have the kick drum. For me, we're speaking about 2 different levels of abstraction. So they're not intended maybe to go into the same kind of philosophy with modular, because I think we have different philosophies in modular. And so we want to do a full system with all the control modules, like the Bishop and the Griffin, all the hands-on module with reverse, so it's very hands-on, and a selection of instrument modules, the kick, the snare, the hi-hat, and what you need else to create like more clubby music, you need also synth voices. And so the first synth idea we had was to do a versatile, something that can be maybe the closest thing you can find in the market right now is a Microfreak from Arturia. So like something which is like a classic architecture, but you where you add craziness at every level.
Yeah.
Craziness inside the VCO. They got a lot of craziness into the sequencing, into the microfig. They did very well. But for example, the Ballista Blast, we kept also the same thing as the other module, being able to randomize every parameters with any level. Do you want to humanize? Do you want to go full IDM, for example? The velocity, which can be assignable to different parameters. And so based on the architecture and all those features, we have different engine. We have like a classic engine where you will find different ways to combine saw and square, like I don't know, like a sync, PWM on square and saw, chords and so on. Then we have a wavetable engine where you can set up your wavetable inside. And we have a third engine right now, which is a FM engine, with a lot of different operators. And into FM engine, you get rid of the filters because you need more control on the FM algorithms. And you have different architecture with several modulators, carrier, and so on, with like a kind of macro control on those FM patches. And this has presets, of course. This has also select bus. So we want also to do a crossover between a classic Groovebox. I don't like the term, but I think it's the closest thing which you can find on the market, like the Groovebox, where you can have presets, but also the ability to patch everything, to have access to every CV, to have access to the communication between every module thanks to the CV. Yeah, this is the idea to the Ballista Blast and maybe more in general to the whole Shakmat line.
Okay, now interesting. So, like, taking the select bus approach, for instance, is a great way then to sort of expand on that kind of family growing connective thing, and also feels like where modular needs to evolve to make it, more recallable or more manageable maybe for live. So find that kind of thing very interesting myself. Now I've got a gig on Thursday this week. I've not actually advertised this. This is like it's a warm-up gig for the band that it's like a duo rather called Quasimodal, which is live drums and modular. And we're going to do we got our first official gig on the 1st of November, but we're doing a little warm-up gig on Thursday. So if anyone local, ill repute Thursday, it's a little secret warm-up gig. Well, not so secret now, but it's just friends and stuff coming along. And this is a project that I've been working on since about January last year. And so it's the longest I've ever probably been in development of something before taking it live. So I'm quite apprehensive about it. I'm a little bit nervous because, but the reason why I'm mentioning this though is because it ties in with what we were just talking about there and about like the select bus, but also being able to sort of manage your rig live. What I've been finding in the last couple of weeks, we've been doing rehearsals in a big room out through a PA. Prior to that, it had always been a kind of headphone project. So I'm playing with an acoustic drummer. His drum kit is mic'd up beautifully, and he gives me a stereo feed. I think he's got 14 mics on the kit. He's got all these toms mic'd, the top skin and the bottoms, so you get this beautiful acoustic drum mix coming in. And then I play modular synth with him, and we don't use any click track at all. And I think that's the kind of key for this particular project. By not having a click, he can interpret what I'm doing in different ways, and what I really like is he can take charge and I have to kind of manipulate what I do to him, which I think is the right way around. I think drummers have been made to be kind of, to follow a click and to be these, I don't know. This is a kind of an ongoing experiment for me to kind of get away from click. Interestingly, the other day I was talking about, I haven't really been playing around with the swing controls within the Oxy, and then we kind of realized actually, no, leave the swing. He can he can bring the swing.
Mhm.
He can play between things. He can put the swing in there. If my rig then started a bit, you could get a kind of mushy lot of kind of swing. But sorry, I know I'm just going off on about this. It's completely dominating my mind at the moment. This
I guess I think interaction between drums and modular, it's something that can go very deep into. If I may, for the small experience I had with it, so I used to play in a band which was called Glue, GLU, and I was with was a 4-piece band with a bass, keyboard player, me at electronics, and a drummer. And when I integrated the band, the song were already there. They were supposed to play on a certain tempo. So I brought the click in the band, which was like, okay for everyone. The drummer was like, okay, I don't care. You can give me a click and I'm okay to play on a click. And just for the fun, years after playing together with the drummer, we were roommates at the period. He told me, yeah, we should do together drum and modulars, but let's this time no clicks. Just for the exercise, no clicks. And I was okay.
Yeah.
And interesting thing I think you can do with drums, because drums can be easily translated into pulses. With a mic, there is very basic modules that can turn the sound of a mic into pulses. So, okay, what do you think first? When I hit the snare, I could open this envelope, for example. When I hit this hi-hat, I could trigger the other drum sound. This is one obvious thing. But think about it, like when you have a pulse, it's like a clock. Because the drummer immediately will give you like a flow of pulses. So it's kind of a clock signal. And then what if you can remove the clock, which gives like the BPM, like the click to your drummer, and replace this flow, this regular flow of clicks by the clicks given by like the pulses given by the flow of drums. So with logic combination and keeping all the different elements, you can start to create like a very complex drum, let's say clock generator for your modular rig. So you can completely imagine like when the drummer is playing a sequence is playing, because his hi-hat is making advancing like an 8-step sequence, for example. And maybe you can still reset it by your hand. And this is a way you can interact with the modular to keep things maybe more in relation. But I think
that's interesting. Yes, because initially we were dabbling with some ideas, but we kind of realized we didn't want like him to be playing kind of electronic drums. The idea was to really, utilize the acoustic nature of the kit. But what you're saying is a really good idea, because you're not using it to trigger other sounds. You're just using it as another modulation source, as a gate stream coming from different. In fact, because he's got the drums mic'd up, and because of his mixer, he's got multiple auxiliary sends. So he could just send out like different parts of his kit that I then turn into gate streams. Okay, this is interesting. I'm not going to do this for the gig this week.
No, it's a long way.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it's becoming a new instrument for the drummer as well.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, the first time you give a drummer the thing that, okay, the way you play will change the sequence you hear. For him, it's like, what the fuck is that? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you want to learn the proper way to have a proper drum riff, but that goes also well with the fact to clock a sequencer. And so it's a full exercise for the drummer, but I think it's very fascinating.
Okay, interesting. I'm inspired by that. I just got to post what Remy had said, because this was a little thing that I should kind of mention as well. It was something that we realized. I've got a Pamela's new workout, which is acting as a kind of clock to, and we just put a cable into it, one of these cables that shows. It's just we're just using up a channel, and it just flashes, and that's just constantly just the speed that my rig is at. So if he needs some point of reference, especially if it's getting very abstract, he can look at this flashing cable, and he, you know, and that's the closest thing that we're using to a click, because he can completely ignore that if he wants to as well. But I think I'm going to have to call time now on this lovely conversation. Again, this is a part one. We're going to have you back soon, and yeah, it's been really fascinating hearing what you've had to say. I'm really interested to see how the ballista blast. That's the name. When do you think that will be ready for shipping?
Oh, that was a question today at a meeting. Our production is about to launch normally.
About to launch production. So
if the factory is ready for a fast job, we all still hope for Christmas. It will be under the Christmas tree. Otherwise, it will be late January, early February, because early January is not the right period to release modules generally.
No.
So
but
we try our best to still have it this year, but I cannot at this stage. I cannot promise it. We have a lot of redesign and we have a lot of different things to redesign, because every time we make a module, we want it like the best we could do. So I was like, I went for a long time off this summer, and when I came back, I was a full. I done the module in my mind, so I just said to use it like a user. I was like, I think we can nail something more with one of those filters. So okay, let's go back to redesign and you know the time it can take. So for the best, hopefully it will be released maybe a bit later.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. We will talk soon, and I will post up. So getting some.
Thank you, everyone.
In the chat.
I see the messages in the kind. Thank you, everyone.
But thanks everybody in the chat room. Sorry, I haven't been. Oh, actually, I did say we're going to take questions. I did say that. So, if anybody's got any questions for Francois, or for me, God forbid. But if you've got questions for Francois, now would be the time. Maybe please put 2 Qs in front, just so we can just clearly see that that's a question. And then, so I'll give it another few minutes in case anyone does want to post a question. I did promise that, you see, so it's only fair. But again, you know, it's really nice to have everybody join us tonight in the audience. It's lovely to have people there listening, but also for those of you, and quite a few people will listen to the show or watch the show after the fact as well. So we love you too. So last call for questions. I don't know what the delay time actually is between the stream and the audience. So I'm assuming there are no more questions coming in. But Jason is saying 30 seconds. Thanks, Jace. Mr. Jervis, get Jervis fame. Good to see you here. But yeah, that's not a question, Jace. It's not a question. Yeah. Oh, there is a question from Remy. Here we go. Do you have any UI inspirations, influences? That's a good question. I mean, I can see that could take us down another. Maybe I'll tell you what. We'll hold back on that question. I think it'd be best to call. Look at me. I'll offer in the audience questions, and then just that's a big question. Okay. Maybe if you can answer that question in a brief answer, then
very brief, because it's more complex to me, depending on the series of modules. So if we take all the performance module like the Bishop and so on, it came one brand that influences me a lot is Electron. I really like on small box you can do complex stuff. When you have to learn it a bit like an instrument, but you can do. It's very clever the way sometimes you can play with Electron machines, but I haven't played with Electron machines, a new one, since maybe 6-7 years. So I don't know about the newest one, but the oldest one, it was a real revelation for me in terms of ergonomy and UI, and something I think that has major influence on me, and I think on a lot of brands, is a mutable instrument. So thank you, Emily, because for the most conventional modules, she opens the door to have simple and yet complex interface, which was very rare at the time. So this is inspiration. And then you have to ask the rest of the team, because I'm not the only one to take decisions. And so it's always a big melting pot of a lot of ideas we put together. But my main ones, I still with those two brands. And maybe I have some more ideas. I don't know where they're coming from, and they should come from somewhere. But I put a finger on an exact brand or something. But sure, there are surely other influences.
Excellent. Okay, lovely. All right, good question. Thank you, Remy. Okay, thanks everybody. We're going to go. So again, keep an eye out for the part 2, which will be much more musical, we'll be doing playing around with things. So that'll be quite good fun. Okay, bye everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Bye.